Hey everybody. Today I want to talk about an important topic in spirituality and non-duality. It's something I've struggled with for a while, and I know a lot of friends and other family members interested in this kind of work have also struggled with. So I thought we'd talk about it a little bit today. The topic is finding joy in non-duality. I know a lot of people that have come to non-duality have usually come from some background in faith, whatever background they were raised in as a child. For me, that was Roman Catholicism. I actually was on my way to the seminary to become a Catholic priest after high school. For other people, it might be Judaism, Islam. Maybe they started in a Buddhist or a Hindu background, but for most people, especially in the United States, they start off from some sort of Christian denomination. Uh, After that, my transition was to more of a staunch atheism or agnosticism, kind of I reject this entirely. I can't believe I was brought up this way. I can't believe I almost spent my entire life as a Catholic priest, giving up the pleasures of the world. From there, it kind of transitioned into an exploration of world philosophy and religion through, ancient traditions in Judaism and Islam, through kind of more New Age traditions and spirituality today. Eventually interested in the ancient philosophies of the East with Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, really inspired by talks from people like Alan Watts or Ram Dass, and diving deep into what the other half of the world has believed for millennia. Eventually, the journey led to non duality after some brief stints in studying nihilism or absurdism, all these other beliefs that philosophers like Nietzsche or Camus, Heidegger have talked about for centuries as well. What can happen for people when they start realizing more of the non duality, which simply means just not two, um, doesn't necessarily imply one and only one, but not two. It can lead to this feeling of just what's the point, or what matters, or why do anything. And it's something I personally struggled with for years on that journey. Um, the the problem is, and what I didn't see then and see now and hope to impart with you guys, is because there's not two, there's joy in the everyday life. Think of what Buddha talked about. The first kind of tenets that Buddha came back with was uh, life is suffering. Um, why is life suffering? Because of our attachment to it. With non duality, you can take a step back, and instead of viewing it through your face and your eyes, right? Uh, there's that joke of what's enlightenment, and it's just regular life, but 2 inches off the ground. It's meant as kind of like a joke or a tongue-in-cheek Zen jest, but just picture that. Instead of picturing it right here in front of your face, try living life from 2 inches above your head, just slightly off the ground, kind of that removed detachment. Um, some examples I can give, if you're familiar with video games, it's the difference between a first person shooter and a third person shooter. With a first person shooter, you are immersed, completely immersed in whatever is going on. You are sitting there, move your head to the left, move your head to the right, the whole world spins around you. It's how we live our typical everyday life right now. Something comes in your view, out of your view, you move your head, your whole world goes with it. A third world shooter, third person point of view, is more of, if you've played Resident Evil is a great example of a third-person shooter where the camera is kind of situated a few inches and feet over the person's shoulder. So when you move your joystick to the left or the right, or the view to the left or the right, it moves the avatar to the left or to the right, and only slightly the world around it, or the world stays stationary. Um, Another example could be like Super Mario 64. When you first play it, most people play from that camera angle that's slightly over top and behind Mario's head. I know there was a first person way to play that game, but I don't think many people played it that way, or at least not by default. So that third person view allows you a little bit of space between what's going on in reality, and allows you some joy to find there. All of a sudden, if something happens, it's not that physically hit my body and physically hurt and ow. Like, okay, if you put your hand on the stove, it's still going to hurt. If someone throws a small insult your way, it's not, oh my God, that person insulted me. What am I going to do? How dare they do that to me? What were they thinking? That's so rude. All the things I've done from them. That's immersed in that first person perspective, right? If someone throws an insult and you're in a video game, how do you feel, right? Like, you might be able to laugh at it. You're like, oh, that's kind of a funny joke. You have that third person perspective because you're playing it from behind the screen. You aren't immersed as the Mario character or whatever game that you are playing. So it doesn't hurt physically. There's the small detachment that you can find. The other joy that you can find in non-duality is realizing the oneness, the non-separation. Let's start with non-separation. The non-separation of everything. When I am sitting here making this video, I'm staring into a camera, talking to other people someday that may watch this video. But the thing to realize is, currently, at this point in time, when I'm making this video, everything is all one and connected. I'm not separate from the universe. I'm not separate from this phone. We'll talk more about this later, but it's kind of the dream of reality, right? It may appear as separate. The phone, me, the receiver on the other end at a different space and time. But currently, as it stands, I am as one with the universe as everyone else, and there is no separation between us. That non-separation allows me, when I can pause and reflect and kind of have that detachment, to realize that an offense against me or something negative that happens physically to me could be seen from another point of view as something very joyous. So use the example of like a dating scene, right? You're going on a date with someone, and before, like the Buddha says, our attachment to things creates the suffering. So you find someone, you're very interested in that one person, and that's the person for you. So you get attached to that individual. I want this person, and this person can only want me, and I will be in misery if I cannot have this person, or we cannot go on the date or fulfill whatever fantasies you're picturing. Assume it doesn't happen. You're hurt, you're in pain, you're in sorrow, you're grieving. How dare they? How could they not see me as a valuable person? But when you separate yourself with that non-dual perspective, it allows you to kind of put yourself in the other person's shoe, and they're able to find someone that's a better fit for them, that has more value to them, that fits their needs better. And when you view it from that way, the rejection of you was not an offense to you. It was more affirming of what they needed in their life, and also the partner that they eventually will wind up with. So that separation between the first person in your seat, living the full experience, versus that small detachment, allows you to find joy. Uh, some other practices that will help and that I highly recommend with that is the mindfulness technique of being more in the moment, right? With that small separation, and also meditation techniques that help. When you pause to do meditation, it allows you the time to get the separation and to develop that awareness when you just sit in silence for 10, 15, 30 minutes with no thoughts coming to mind. It allows you the ability to pause and experience that third person awareness that we're talking about, which will help carry it forward in the real world, where instead of being reactionary, you can be a little bit more thoughtful about that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this talk on non-duality and the joy of non-duality. I'll be back with more tomorrow.